I was telling you before, like as we were setting this up, that I totally respect snowboarding and everything, all the things that you're a part of. I don't know enough about them to really orchestrate a talk in which I would appear even remotely educated or cool about it. So instead, like I think we should just chat about anything if you don't mind. Like what's on the tip of your brain? What do you want to chat about? We can start there.
Love it. I mean, yeah, that's I appreciate the clarity on the snowboarding front. And I'd also mentioned, I'm sure I'll find a way to bring it back. I mean, first things first, I want to hear about the Edmonton hockey, the hockey excitement this year. Were your friends going crazy? What was that like? That was awesome as an Albertan. I was pretty fired up.
I mean, that's incredible. I would have never thought that sitting down with someone from Calgary, we could both kind of openly talk about how we feel about all that. Because I see online, like, the typical Flames or the typical Calgary fan, what they think of our team. But I've never really been able to ask someone who will honestly admit if they are or aren't a fan of what's happening. To answer the question, it was absolutely insane around here. I was going as crazy as I would let myself. There were definitely people going like absolutely wild. The city, it was very cool, and then it was over. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, it went as long as possible, I guess. It being over in game seven of the final is long, but it seemed like we were all just starting to get along and everyone was kind of
Yeah.
bonding over that, and then it was over. But as someone from Calgary, did you like it or begrudgingly watch it, or what was your take on all of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like right away I think of this conversation so my friend Kennedy was in town and they're like seriously a Flames fan. Like I can't even go ahead in front and say that I'm like some like die hard Flames fan. I grew up playing hockey. I grew up like outside of Calgary in a small town, and that's kind of like what you did. um and then it was kind of like snowboarding honestly came around in like a rejection of hockey. So later in life I've been like more so like as I grew up, I'm like, oh fuck, like I'm not like too cool to like hockey or like I can like this shit's sick. And I think as an Albertan, anyway, sorry, what I was saying, back to the line. Kennedy and I were watching it, and some like people behind us were at the bar were like talking shit, and we were talking, and we were like, oh, we're from Calgary, and they're just like roasting us for like cheering for the Oilers, and we were kind of
Yeah.
like, yo, like I'm not like that stuck up about it. Like I want a Canadian team to win. I think that would be so awesome. And I could see what was happening. Like everybody in Edmonton were like so fired up. And I think also that story that was kind of like unrolling, like the whole 3-0, it's the Stanley Cup finals and they come back and they almost win it. That was like
Yeah.
almost that's like a generational sports story that
Yeah.
almost saw fulfillment. You know, like you could do anything just because we don't play hockey doesn't mean that like you can't respect that. I thought that was awesome. Yeah, I'm just like I'm just like not too on my high horse to be like, oh my God, the Flames lost, or we're like, fuck the Oilers. Like, no, I'm down. Shout out, and I like Edmonton. I rock with Edmonton. All my Edmontonians. I'm here for it.
Well, we appreciate that as a whole. I mean, the way I saw it was just, at that point, all Canadian teams should have been cheering for us just for a Canada win. Like it was, in my head, it was totally acceptable to be an Oilers fan for that series and then never win or loss, never talk about it again. Like
Yeah,
I didn't think anyone was going to be a permanent Oilers fan. I just thought they were a fan until it was over.
Yeah.
But I heard a lot of people like, or saw online like people in other cities kind of cheering for us and then like getting pushback on that too. I never fully got it, but also maybe I'm inherently biased a bit. Like if it was the other way, I would like to think that I would
I've done the
get
same.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but who, I guess, I mean, hopefully I'll find out eventually. It's cool that when any team that I'm somewhat invested in is that far. Like, I'm not even really a hockey or a sports fan, but in that instance, I'm a huge hockey and a huge sports fan.
It's funny. It's like that. It's like the environment that matters, that like kind of comes with that. It's
Yeah,
not even like this. The sport itself is simply like an application. It could be anything really. I mean, even look at the Olympics are happening right now, and people are like going off on Instagram and they're like talking about swimmers and like they're freaking out about that one like what is it, Katie Decker, I think from the States, and like she's a beast, but people probably aren't talking about her swimming before the Olympics. I mean, maybe in some niche circles, and they're probably not like people probably won't be like absolutely obsessed with her in the same way following the Olympics. It's just like the environment of it is totally conducive to people like getting behind these people or these teams or something. And I think that's nice. I think it can be nice.
yeah, no, it's definitely a positive thing. Like in a time where it's rare to find a positive thing. But I agree. I've never seen my Instagram stories are full of people talking about the shooting and the table tennis. I've never heard of any.
Yo, those shooting photos of that one Turkish guy, those are insane. I'm like, this guy is just, yeah, like nobody cares about this shooting, but this guy has a cool look, and now all of a sudden he's like a viral sensation. It's so strange.
No, it's definitely cool. I'm here for it, but I don't know. Some people are a bit more negative than I am, and I actually can be quite negative at times. So I think if I can see it as positive, you would hope other people could.
Yeah, I mean, I think I maybe share that. I feel like I can appreciate a nice pessimistic approach to life, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, exactly. You mentioned like growing up playing hockey and now like kind of watching it and not playing it, but did that happen instantaneously or like was there a while like you I think you refer to snowboarding as like almost the anti hockey. Did you like were you not a fan of watching hockey like during that transition?
I think no, I think that's a great question. I think I've always like liked it, and I grew up and I was so fortunate to like kind of, I feel like it's a pretty like kind of try out a bunch of different things. And the high school I went to outside of Calgary, it was called Springbank. Um, there were like there was like maybe like 400 or 500 people, and it was like four grades, 9 to 12, and there was maybe like four snowboarders, these older kids. And I think there was so many of this like pretty like stereo like I mean you are Albertan, you know exactly when I speak of like this stereotypical truck driving hockey rural
Yeah,
Alberta,
yeah.
like AAA, they're trying to play in the WHL and they want to go to the NHL, and they kind of like are embodying some of you know these tropes around that are really negative, but it's kind of hitting. So I felt like snowboarding was like kind of came out in almost like a rejection of that. I actually remember super clearly playing hockey, and I was probably in grade 9, was like the last year, and it was like and it was like me and this other guy on my team. His name was Matt. We were like, it was like a breakaway or something, and I could hear his dad in the stands yelling at me to pass the puck to his son. And I remember I like stopped skating and like passed the puck to his son and like stopped in the middle of the ice and just like looked at this dad and kind of like put up my hands and was like, "What do you want?" And I just like maybe I like latched onto that, and obviously I probably like sensationalized that to some degree in my head, but like that moment was for me a very much so like Yeah, I'm good on this. It wasn't necessarily it wasn't the sport itself, it was the culture that surrounded it that I was like, fuck this. And now there's kind of like this like almost satirical like progression back towards like I'm like, fuck, like that's so funny. Like these people are so strange, like driving these massive trucks, like seriously, and yeah, it was never really about the sport though. I think I've been thinking that like some of my friends here play hockey and I'm like, maybe I should try to strap in again in the summer. Maybe that'd be good for me. I don't know.
Were you like did you get old enough and close enough to like moving up in the ranks? Like was it your plan to play professionally at some point?
Never, no, I don't think so. I think it was one of those ones when like it was funny. So I have an identical twin brother, JJ. So we pretty much like and also it's worth mentioning like I'm a triplet. I also have a twin sister.
Oh, I see. I knew about the brother, not about the sister.
I know Grace is kind of uh Grace is more of a secret just because JJ and I share like snowboarding and skateboarding and he also films skating and we made all these snowboarding videos together. So everybody, I think a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, twins." But anyway, like on that front, like logistically organizing like three, like JJ and I could never play on a different hockey team, if that makes sense. So it's like we'd always kind of like be bumped down so that we were both on the same team, just so like there's room for that because organizationally, like our mom couldn't drive me to a practice at one point and then my brother to a practice somewhere else, my parents were no longer together. So it's just like, so no, I never played like high level hockey. I played into my teen years, but it wasn't like AAA and like I'm gonna be the shit. And which is actually ironic because I also never really was like in similar ways, even when I started snowboarding, I never was like, I want to be a professional. Like um that was never really something that's not like a guiding thing for me. Like I want to be hella pro at this. I want to be the best. It's not really something that drives me the way maybe it drives others.
No, I mean, that is incredible, but I was gonna say, like, not what you would hear most people who get that far in a sport, it's kind of their prerogative to get that far in the sport. Like,
Yeah, I
well, at least from what I know or I've heard.
yeah, and I feel like it's interesting, like at least again, like this is the perfect example of like how I'll find a way to like bring it back to snowboarding in some senses. But I feel like it was always like I wanted to keep doing what I wanted to keep traveling and filming. And for me to keep doing that, I kind of had to take steps and do things that I thought were the right way. That I guess maybe to
Right.
some degree worked out because I still am so fucking fortunate to be able to travel and you know travel through and even like travel kind of throughout the year and yeah, it's awesome for sure.
So, like, I assume that if you and your brother were kind of together on teams, he kind of eventually went the snowboard route instead of hockey. Which one of you two, like, was the catalyst? Like, who made the jump
Ah,
first?
I mean that's I feel like probably JJ, so like he's that's big bro. He's 2 minutes older, 2 minutes older than me or 1 minute older than me or something. And I honestly genuinely feel like he was probably better than me at hockey. And at least in snowboarding, I definitely think he's like technically was better. And I mean, it's funny skating now. Like when we were growing up, like um, I would go editing these videos and he would go skate. So when we skate together, it's just like I'm like watching JJ skate the way kind of that I want to skate. I'm like, fuck. Probably JJ though. I would say he was always, but I guess that also maybe is also like an interestingly maybe speaks towards like being an identical twin is an interesting dynamic as a whole, about like who's um who's influencing what. And, so I feel like sometimes twins can like really go polar opposites. And I think that
Yeah,
maybe was interesting in my, and even to pull back a little more, like my relationship as a triplet, like my sister definitely kind of was like not polar opposite, but like grew kind of in opposition to like her two twin brothers that are like just obsessed with watching every single snowboarding video that ever goes on the internet and reading all the fucking skate mags and whatever, like she was kind of like, nah, I'm gonna go to university and like, like her the high school boyfriends were probably like hockey players and shit too, because she was like, I want to have like as least to do with this overbearing side of my life with my twins as possible, which is fair.
yeah, totally. What's the best twin or triplet prank you ever pulled?
Oh, that's a maybe not. I don't know if we have any good triplet pranks. It's funny though, like that's something like I look exactly like JJ. Like we look the same. We have the same interest in music and blah 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 blah. So it's like happens so naturally that we never really like pulled these things on purpose. And now that we're like old enough, I can like recognize in conversations with people when I see somebody and they have no idea which one I am. And they're not like saying anything. Like, so that's why we never like fully. I think there was probably like some high school days when like I would like said some stupid shit to some friends and they made or like said some shit to a girl that JJ had a crush on or so, some like very childish things. But as we grew up, it was one of those things when people mix us up so much, or even our family, to a certain point that it was never something that we didn't want to provoke that because it was
Yeah,
fucking annoying. Because at a certain time, you're also growing up, and part of growing up is like you're trying to like find your own identity. And it was hard when you have somebody that like looks exactly like you, and at least in my perspective, was like pretty much better than me at everything. Like that was pretty difficult. So we never really. But nowadays, it's awesome. Like now, I'm in Vancouver. I've been in Vancouver for 2 years, and people still like will see me and be like, "Dude, I didn't know which one you were." And I'm like, "JJ lives in Calgary, like, but fair."
that's funny. Was there any like aesthetically? Obviously, you guys were probably way different inside, like as people. But on the outside, was there any like distinguishable, like any way that people could tell, or like, do you mean
Mm,
you guys acted and even dressed similar?
I think, yeah, that's the thing is I think like we dress the same and we act quite similar. I think there's obviously nuances in that maybe I can't even fully understand
Right.
really, you know? Like, but yeah, we are so similar and I recognize that now. Like, and we for the longest time we were always doing this haircut thing too. And this is what really fucked with people actually. It's like it'd be like this cycle of like growing hair out and then like buzzing it to bald. So it's like me and JJ would just be cycling through almost at like 6 months off of each other. So then we just see somebody, for example, I mean, this is also, I mean, I have a lot, I think traveling, at least in the winter, there's some friends that I see that are good friends of mine, but I just don't really see them as much in the winter. So it's totally happened numerous times. And it'd be like, I see some friends over the holidays for Christmas holidays, and I have long hair and JJ has short hair. And then I see them 6 months later for like a birthday celebration or something, and I have no hair and JJ has hair. So it's like that's kind of cruel, but it's never on purpose. And it's just always people um for a while actually the side profile. Um as my grandmother was getting older, it became a little more difficult to tell JJ and I apart. So we
Yeah.
had these hats. So I would wear a Florida Marlins hat that had the F. And JJ would either wear a Jasper, like his real name's Jasper, like a Jasper, like the town of Jasper hat, or like a Jimmy John's hat that actually said JJ. So we'd like go up to grandma's and I'd be like, I'm wearing the F hat and he's wearing the J hat. just so that she knew, because we didn't want to like put her in that awkward situation of like being her grandma and being old and being like, I have no idea which grandson is which.
That's pretty smart, actually. I wonder. I mean, if there's any identical twins listening, they can adapt that if they have
Yeah.
grandparents.
I mean, thank goodness our parents didn't like do that kind of thing when it's just like give them the same, like give them like twins the same names, you know?
Yeah.
Like that definitely happens, you know?
Oh, for sure. Like I know, like Taylor and Tyler. It's like very similar.
That's maniacal parent behavior, in my opinion. I'm just like, yo, okay. Oh, another thing about JJ, actually, this is kind of funny. Like another, like maybe the most physical difference that you could tell us is like having triplets. Like the pictures of my mom are twisted. Um, and JJ was kind of like behind in the womb. There was like he was like kind of crushed in between me and my sister. So he actually has like a skinnier face than I do. Like my face is a little more round because I was chilling with a little more. I was on the top floor of the womb, just hanging.
In the penthouse.
I was in the penthouse, exactly. I was in the penthouse chilling, and he was down in the bachelor, just getting crushed.
And then, wait, was your sister like main floor or basement?
I think she was basement, like kind of basement front garden suite, maybe, you know? But I think like obviously like they were just I am the youngest, but the joke that we always talk about is like, you know, triplets, it's a C-section. The doctor is just literally
Yeah.
fucking babies. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't really matter. Just get them out of there.
Did skateboarding or snowboarding come first?
Probably snowboarding definitely just because like Break Creek, growing up in rural Alberta, like there wasn't really like there wasn't a skate park. You know, there's like a modular park in later in my life. There became like a modular one in like a nearby outdoor rink in the summer. That was like again a classic kind of like rural like outdoor rink, ice hockey in the winter, and then like modular skate park in the summer. So that happened a little bit later. Um, but I think it was maybe like seeing skateboarding was what maybe got me interested in snowboarding. I had a teacher that had a little like corner of magazines. And I remember they had like rock climbing magazines and skateboarding magazines and then some snowboarding magazines and maybe some skiing stuff too. And just being like really kind of attached to that corner and obviously more so like looking at the snowboarding and skateboarding ones being like, whoa, this is cool. I remember I really liked the gear guides. I thought that was so sick, like just flipping through all the gear, which nowadays is something that have I don't have the patience maybe for that. Um, but I think it was probably snowboarding first just because of my rural upbringing, you know, and I think that's I wish I love skateboarding and partially I think what I love about it is it's kind of like beside snowboarding and it's so fucking hard. And you know, I didn't have that in the same way. And that was what was nice about moving into the city, like moving into Calgary when JJ and I were 18, we like started like working and like we bought a truck together and we bought like an HVX and an extreme fisheye. And that was like that kind of was like more of like, oh, we're like, you know, in the city and our friends were skating and maybe we'd like film some HVX clips of our friends. And then, yeah, so that was really nice for me. I think moving in the city felt really good. As much as I am so grateful for growing up in the sticks, you know, I think there's maybe like 1,800 or like 2,000 people in the town, the whole like area where I grew up.
That's the smaller than I would have guessed.
I mean, it's like once, you know, like we don't even like there wasn't a high school, you know, like the high school was 25 minutes away at the edge of the city. There's like a K to 8 school with like all the kids in the region pretty much, and there's like 400 of them or something, you know, like you couldn't go somewhere without. I remember at one point like going to the hardware store and like me and my brother were like buying some spray paint for our mom to like she was like, go and run and grab it. Like we're gonna paint a table. And the guy again, like a classmate's dad who owned the store pretty much like telling JJ and I like, listen, I'm gonna keep my eyes peeled.
Oh yeah,
If I see any pegs, I know it was you. And we're like, yeah, like,
that's funny.
okay. Like just shit like that. Some like community
Yeah.
watch shit.
Was filming, did that interest you, like, kind of initially when you started getting into skating and snowboarding? Was filming right there with it, or did that come later after, like, kind of analyzing all the gear and becoming into, like, that side of things?
I think it was always like pretty it was like always pretty involved. And that's like honestly just because of my parents. Like I think both my parents are maybe like creators in different ways. My father's like actually an artist, a graphic designer, a musician. And my mom's like a science communicator, but also like comes from like a graphic design, editorial, like news background, journalistic background. So those two things were always like those two things I think like my the influence from both my parents was huge for like and even the way that like my and my brother's approach to to like filming snowboarding has really like it's like filming like snowboarding to me like part of going on a trip is like I'm snowboarding but I also want to film it and editing it and like let's write an article about it. Like I love to write and like let's make a t-shirt around this or like let's hire somebody, a friend of ours to make this graphic. So it was always, I think creating was kind of always something that was it was always something that was kind of there. And I even remember like years ago, like this like Instagram first started. Like I think it was the first year I had Instagram. It was like my thing was like, and I was in high school. It's like I'm gonna take a picture and post it on Instagram every day I go snowboarding as like a little like visual record, like a digital record of like how
Yeah.
many days I go snowboarding. And I think I went like 120 days or something insane. And that was cool. And I guess that's like that was the it was always kind of part of it was from pretty early on was like let's get this like let's get the clip, let's watch the clip, let's make something more. I mean, my dad was also like listening to music and I was always like around music. So that was also like part of it is like, I listen to music and I'm like, oh, could this be used in a video? Like it's like that same way of like your upbringing and the way you look at the world. Like I can't really listen to music and not think about if it would be good in a video, the same way that like I can't walk through a city and not like kind
Yeah.
of look for spots. Like it just is what it is.
Like hearing the type of parents you have, I was wondering actually if what your parents thought about, kind of taking the snowboard route over the organized sport route. And I wonder, like, some parents would be all for it. Some are just trying to support the kids. Some are against it in a way. It sounds like yours would have probably been cool with it, but were they?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Especially like younger. I mean, and I was also pretty fortunate to like through some friends like find actually one of this one kid would honestly be a good person for you should interview. His name's Ethan Philippew. He is like in Toronto now, but he has an interesting story now. That's side note.
I know Ethan a bit, and it's funny. Like a lot of people have recommended Ethan. Like a few people say you gotta talk to Ethan.
Yeah, that's the boy. So he kind of actually like his older sister was in my grade, and somehow through that he was like in this snowboarding club that I didn't know about, and then we kind of found out about that through him. And my mom was like very much like, okay, like you guys don't want to do organized sport, but like you need some sort of like there needs to be some sort of like structure to this, and I kind of agree. I'm like that's like I understand that you don't want to just like cast your kids loose at this place. I think they're like skate parks are maybe more conducive to that. Just like drop them off instead of like, give more of
Yeah,
a structure to it. So anyway, through Ethan, we found that, and that was awesome. We were like me and my brother were part of this snowboarding, yeah, club, and it was cool. They weren't like trying to get us to go to the Olympics. It's like owned by like Jed's family is the people that run it.
riders on board.
Yeah. So it's riders on board. Exactly. So like Beth and that was sick because obviously as a Calgarian and a snowboarder, you're like, and it's funny because Jed's a friend now, but growing up, you're like, yo, this
Yeah.
guy's the shit. And like his parents were really, I think, like embodied a lot of that. Like his mom and his brother were like doing it the right way. And so his older brother did a lot for me, at least in snowboarding, and just like honestly on some terms of like some growing up shit as well. So we did, yeah, so we did that snowboarding club, and that's like where I met pretty much all of our friends. And like that was kind of, we got lucky and we started like our little like snowboarding video crew out of that. And then that was kind of like a good catalyst. But it was sick. Like we'd be taking, me and JJ would be like taking Ethan and this other friend Jake. We'd like take him out of middle school, like when we were like 16 and we got our licenses. Their parents were down for us to like leave at lunch, go and like maybe Ethan was in high school by this time and like pick him up, go to the middle school, pick up Jake, and then go to COP. And it would just be like us with these kids, like taking them out of school and going snowboarding.
That's I mean, good that you referenced all those guys because I know of a lot of people who have made it quite far in snowboarding out of Calgary. So normally when I get someone from Calgary or Edmonton on here and whatever they're excelling at, I like to kind of ask like, was it harder to make it in what you wanted to make it in being from Calgary? But I wonder if it was like if people actually kind of respect Calgary and the snow scene. Like, what was it? I guess if I asked you that, like, was it hard to make a name out of there?
Yeah.
Was it conducive with all the other people?
No, I mean, I think it's hard, and I think that's something that like most, people that you've maybe talked to before, skateboarders and snowboarders, like I think we all maybe, and this is a generalization, of course, but there's always, it's a struggle to like try to get onto like a global or American budget, like Canada. There's like all this shit act like, and as I get older and it's been cool to like, and like creating video, like making videos, and then also like part of that is like making social media assets and blah 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 blah. And a lot of this just boils down to like, marketing budgets, and California has like as many people as Canada, you know what I mean? So it's like when it on paper, they could, Canada's a whole fucking country, and there's maybe it maybe is more valuable to just like hire some fucking local shredder at Bear Mountain in Southern California than like somebody in Canada maybe who is like putting in the time and effort to like film videos, I think. So it's hard, but I think it's also like at least there was like snowboarding around, you know, at least in Calgary, and we could film like in the city. And that's something that is like hard living in Vancouver now. It's like it's not really the same thing, but the second that we were 16 and we could drive, we were just like filming our own videos and making these video parts. So it was like we weren't necessarily doing that to try to like get on. We were just doing that because we wanted to. And I mean, we kind of even started our snowboarding crew because we had this like realization of like, oh, like there are these equivalent crews in the States that will literally never fucking ever be able to be part of. So we're just gonna like fake the funk and bite this shit and kind of like do it ourselves. And obviously that like kind of grew its own legs, but for sure a lot of biting and just like fuck it, doing what we can up here because we never thought that we'd ever be able to like do it in any other ways or in any bigger.
I mean that like in a lot of other subcultures that I'm kind of like tapped in with a bit. That's kind of that's like maybe a really Alberta centric thing or Canada at least. I know in like skating, graffiti, even like clothing, fashion, whatever. It's like
Hmm.
now that everything is on social media, people see it happening elsewhere and they're like, we're not gonna get there, we're not gonna be in like the Berlin scene, but we could at least do our own like version or our interpretation here. And then it's kind of up to the person whether they want to make it like new and personalized, or if they just want to bite entirely, like all of it is good in the end, I think, because it kind of makes everything like more fleshed out up here. But a lot of people I talk to kind of say the same thing. They saw something happening elsewhere and they wanted that for them, so they kind of made it where they were.
Yeah, and I think that is like also like on some Alberta shit. Like there's a lot of really amazing snowboarders and skateboarders from Edmonton and Calgary, and like you said, also like some pretty prolific writers that too that are from those areas that aren't living there anymore or have gone on to other places. Like, um, yeah, and maybe that's also maybe that's that blue collar, get it done, Alberta. Like, and that's like something that maybe is also something that I reflect on is like how much of that like Northern Alberta influence of like fucking pull yourself up by your bootstraps as fucked as that may be is maybe a factor in like that me and my peers and kids I grew up with, like where some of us are still able to, to film snowboarding and maybe make a little bit of money off of it. And maybe there's, yeah, some Alberta, some Alberta mindset might help.
It has to be like Edmonton's got, we have a couple of exports for sure. There's like some great kids who have gone on from here. But when I think about the people out
Oh
of
yeah.
Calgary making a difference in like not only Canada but North America, it's actually kind of hard for me to like even fathom how all of these kids came from there and they're all like kind of beasting in their whatever they're up to. Yeah,
In
it's
their own
it's
lanes.
something. Maybe Alberta, more Calgary. I'm sure Edmonton people might roast me a bit for saying that, but like we were saying at the beginning, it's like it's all civic pride. Like you gotta be proud of other people when
Yeah,
it's time to be proud of them. So I gotta say, like, there's gotta be something in the water out of Calgary. Like all of you guys, like without Calgary, I think Canada would have a lot less cool things happening right now, whether like anyone wants to admit that or not.
totally. I think more people are like, I don't know, people are like moving back though too, which is kind of interesting. Like, and maybe that's also something that I couldn't really see people doing when I was younger and I was living there, and maybe like it only helped for me to like move from Calgary to be like, oh yeah, I fucking get it. But and same with Edmonton, I don't know, like there's some good food there. There's some good restaurants. There's some good people making music that live there. Like there's these also, and I mean, shout out obviously to the nine times homies and everybody, and like what they're doing is so fucking sick. And then there's also like the Mini like nations and like all the and even I know like obviously like Albertans like Dustin and Tristan are also like there's a lot of really good things
Yeah,
going on in Alberta like on all aspects of community, you know. And maybe that's also like I can say that because I'm from there, so I'm like, it could simply be like I'm just following the right four people on Instagram to see this and be like, whoa, that looks sick. But I think it's maybe I think other people maybe who even weren't from there would be able to like recognize there's some good stuff happening.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And like, even if they don't like really recognize it, I think if someone like explained it even a little bit, then it would. It's one of those things that would make a lot of sense. Like when you heard what was that like. Maybe someone doesn't attribute Calgary to all these people, but even maybe hearing this, they will, and then see it a bit differently. It's very cool. It half, maybe more than half, really inspires me, and then more than, or the other less than half or more than half makes me feel like kind of inadequate, and like watching everyone else kind of go on to do much bigger things, and I'm still like trying to figure out what that thing is for me. But it's cool. It's more than half inspiring.
Yeah, I think that's also like that's something that's yeah, that 50-50 split I think is like pretty insightful in a lot of ways too, right? Because it's always like about the way that we're perceiving this, and I think like when we met was at Nowhere Fast. And that like I remember being in that space and being like, whoa, this is cool. Like it just maybe going to speak. I'm like, this is awesome that Edmonton has this shit. This is sick. And obviously there's like, you everybody's growing and moving on and shit. But I always try to maybe that's something that I try to remind myself more is like everybody's probably in their head about whatever the hell they're doing. Like I feel at least. Or I think maybe I have to tell myself that because I know that I am. Like I don't often feel like I've done anything at all, and even like I'm like, why does anybody want to hear shit like that I have to say?
That's good though. I mean, that could be part of the drive too. I feel that way kind of about me as well. Like I'm grateful and I'm happy for certain accomplishments, and then I just always kind of think like, what can I do next, and why would anyone care about what I've done now? Like I have more to do, and that could be an Alberta thing too. Like the whole like bootstraps, blue collar work
Yeah,
ethic. It I mean, the more we talk about it, the more it actually makes sense. And I'm always proud. I mean, I like to roast Alberta. I like to be proud of parts, and this type of talk makes me like even more proud to be from here. But then also kind of brings up things flaws in Alberta as well.
yeah. Oh, no shortage of flaws. And I think there's also like there's that like satirical like kind of like reclaiming that like pretty like toxic masculine like
Yeah.
must work harder, must buy truck. Like there's a way to maybe reappropriate that in like a in a healthy way, and in a way that's not obviously like, kind of a in some ways a dangerous way of thinking of like, the like that whole idea of like we can just you can change your whole life if you work hard, like there's a synthesis there of those that I think like maybe we're like you and I are maybe able to like get there in a better way than
Yeah, yeah, that a more enjoyable way for sure. Maybe a slower way, depending on how we do it. But I don't think I don't know about you, but I'm barely in a rush to do any of the stuff I'm doing, so I don't mind just plugging away blue collar.
yeah, it's funny. I feel like maybe in this like sometimes I feel like I feel like I always have something to do, and that's kind of a nice pace, It's like there's not, I feel like I haven't been necessarily like afforded many opportunities to like relax. Maybe, like it was recent in like recent years did I manage to kind of go on my first like vacation as an adult where I wasn't like bringing my snowboard bag, like quote unquote vacation, like a trip, I guess, a real vacation. So it's like I would always just be like working because it'd be like if I was working and snowboarding, I'd be like not getting paid for it, but I'd want to do it. I'd want to get paid for it. So I'd treat it like a job. And then when I was done that, I would actually have to work a job to pay for that. And then as that has obviously like changed over the years and like snowboarding has become more self-sufficient and shit too, it's still always doing something, like you're thinking about the next video before the other video is done. You're thinking about the next video when you're on the first trip for the video you're filming on, and it's January, and you're like, fuck, maybe next year we do this. It's like that doesn't give a lot of time. And so I've been trying to be better about that too, about trying to be like chill and ground myself a little bit, maybe, and like you said, maybe work a little, try to slow down.
Do you like I ask people I varied this question, but I do like to ask people this sort of type of thing. Do you like being busy like and kind of preoccupied, or do you wish you had more downtime?
No, I like it. I think like yeah, I feel like I kind of need it, you know what I mean? Like I I like I don't want to put my brain in a place with all that
Yeah.
time. You know what I mean? Like I try to like do everything I can to like, and of course that's not saying that I don't like really enjoy that sometimes now more than ever to get it, but I also like want to be busy and I want to be busy with shit that I want to do. Like I don't want to work a fucking job, like a normal job. I don't want to clock in at 9 and clock out at 5. Like I'd way rather just like wake up at my own time and then
Yeah.
work until 11 at night, you know. And then I'm like busy and obviously I'm thinking about what I'm doing, but I'm also not like sitting on a patio like holy shit, I
Yeah.
should have done this or like what about this or this like I don't know. And I also like I mean it's funny like I moved out to Vancouver with my partner. We've been together for like 5 years and she works at the Aritzia head office. And so she's like fully like corporate. He's doing the damn thing. And sometimes that's interesting because like sometimes I'll be like come back from a trip and we'll just be sitting there and it's like, damn, this is fucking crazy. Like two totally like pretty opposite kind of approaches to living in some ways. But I think I'm also like super grateful for that because I feel like, yeah, my partner Olivia helps like grants me an ability to maybe like relax more, because when she's like, I have time off and she can relax more of like a structured, like quote unquote, I'm air quoting
Yeah.
this normal way, maybe that we're speaking about. I can kind of like channel that a little more and be like, yeah, it's all good. I don't need to be doing anything right now. Haha.
Like, did you always kind of operate that way? Or, like, ever since I guess you were young when you got into it, but as you were into it for a bit, were you always kind of busy and thinking about what's next, or did it take a while to, like, teach you?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I think like I got a big fucking mouth. You know what I mean? Like that's also something that I recognize is like my brain is like talking before I even know what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like that's just I think always talking shit, blabbering, keeping it moving, just like there's always something. And I also like my friends, my friends bug me. I actually have um this my one friend John who he also rides for Salmon and we filmed the past two videos together. And he's Swiss. So like he's moving through life slow. Like he's like thinking about what he's saying. And I'll be on the phone with him sometimes. And numerous times in the call, I'll be like looking at my phone, like, yo, is my phone broken? Like, did the phone like hang up? Because he's just thinking about what he's saying before he says it. And like, I'm just like, I'm saying it. And then I'll think about it. And I think maybe that also could just speak towards like, I think that's just the kind of person that I am is like, I always want to be moving or talking or doing something or plan or thinking about something. But it's also like if you ask my girlfriend if I was a good planner, she would be like, absolutely not. But I think that's also because I like plan a lot in like other sides of my life. So then sometimes in my personal life, I'm like, it's all good.
That's so funny. Exact same thing. I plan out certain things and I'm way overly strategic about certain things, but if you asked my girlfriend if I had any foresight or if I was a good planner, she would say absolutely not. Like I selectively plan things as well, so I relate to that a lot.
Yeah, for sure. That's funny. I feel like yeah, nice to have some solidarity in that boat.
Okay, backtracking a tiny bit, just filming and snowboarding. Did you like when you started to, I don't know, let's say when Solomon like took notice of you, would you say that's because of snowboarding or filming? Like was it your personal snowboarding or your filming that started to build a name?
I think both, like I'll be the first person to say that like I'm not the best snowboarder. You know what I mean? So I'm so fucking fortunate. And and that's also just my fucking opinion. I know what I'm doing, but there are people that are so
Yeah.
fucked. and in ways that I'm not even aspiring. Like people are do things that I'm just like, I have no interest in doing that. Like maybe, maybe there's some things where I'm like, oh, that's fucked. Maybe that would feel cool, but like, I think both, and that was also partially like we were we had our own camera and we were like filming and we'd like go down to the States and somehow like through, some really great like sales reps in Alberta, like we somehow got in contact with the team manager and we would send him like raw timelines of like footage like 3 times in winter. Like every month and a half, like every trip, we'd like drive to Minnesota for 6 weeks and we'd come back or we wouldn't even come back. We would drive to Quebec for another 6 weeks, but we'd send him our timeline and then we'd go there and we'd send him our timeline. So it was always like because we were filming, we were like granted this ability to like prove that we were fucking doing something in a way. And eventually it got to a point when like maybe more support happened and like the team manager at Salmon was like, fellas, it's all good. Like you don't need to send it to me every month. Just send it to me at the end of the year. Like I know y'all are doing it. I know y'all are trusting. And I think that like foundational trust that like they're not going to need to like hold our hand with filming that other people maybe had to have was a huge thing, and like when I had the opportunity to like film for like 2 years with this snowboarding magazine out of the States called Snowboarder. That was just because I think like the editor of the mag was like, oh, these guys can like, it was like kind of like an AM video. So it was like, oh, like these kids are young, but they can also like maybe help with like filming other angles and like help that process of like knowing how to build this fucking spot or like yada, 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 yada. Um, so definitely wouldn't, it was definitely like it was like a whole package kind of thing that helped, and still even now to this day. And that's been like, that foundation has been so fucking good because like once I was like pretty burnt out after those snowboarder years, like we're filming for the States. It was hard because all of a sudden like I had this pressure on myself because I was like getting a little bit of bread or like travel budget. And you're like, holy fuck, like now I feel like I have to do this. And you're a kid and you don't know what the hell, you don't know, you don't know what you're really doing. But that trust was nice because I knew that I wanted to like make videos again with my friends. So like once I was done these 2 years with the States, Salmon, I pretty much was like, yo, I want to make more videos. And he pretty much was like, okay, like I'll buy you into your own video pretty much for the same tune that I bought you into this last video. So then that's kind of when I started producing videos more, when it was like, okay, like I'm talking to my sponsors and all my brother's sponsors, we had the same ones, and all of my friends in our crew. We're trying to get money to like hire a filmer and like Salmon's paying me to like produce my own video kind of, which was strange. And I have felt like mixed about that in some ways, but that was fucking awesome to have that trust because we knew what we were doing from figuring it out the hard way and filming shit that he was just like, yeah, make a video.
I wonder. I mean, that's incredible, rare, I assume. But I wonder if there's like a certain power to you sort of understanding the duality, like from the beginning. Like I wonder if people go through similar situations, but it's a bit harder because they think, we're here to snowboard or we're here to film, and they get pulled in the other direction. But you being aware of there being both from the beginning, I wonder if that made it like better output, but more like manageable for you as well.
100%, 100% because it's like it's always better to understand more of a situation, and when people are I mean, this too. Like when you're like when business starts coming and like you're like not even fucking business. That's a kind of fucking bullshit way to put it. Like when money starts coming into fucking play, things can get messy. Um, so when you know more about the roles and like this whole like whatever the hell's happening, like that's fucking dope. And I think that's also cool to understand that because, again, like going forward, like I would love to work on more like do like more like marketing campaigns outside of snowboarding or like help people with that or like consult in different ways about video projects or events or something, like that stuff's so interesting. And in snowboarding and outside of snowboarding, like I think there's been no shortage of like I think every opportunity that I can look back on and be like, wow, that was awesome, and like brought something new was probably just because somebody was like, oh, he knows what it's like as a snowboarder and as a filmmaker or whatever, you know what I mean? Like there's like, and this or something. But that's also that, it's funny to speak on that because then, jack of all trades, master of none. Like I don't necessarily feel like I'm good at, I don't feel like I'm good at anything, you know, even though I have been making snowboarding movies for fucking like 10 years now. That doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Do you? This is like I mean, same question, just two parts, I guess. I was wondering if you ever, like, being so invested in all different aspects of this. Do you ever kind of get distracted by one, like when you should be writing, are you filming, and vice versa? But then also the other question is, or the other part of the question is, do you have any regrets about not? I mean, I'm sure it's untrue that this is just how you feel, that you're not great at one certain thing. I know for sure people who think you're actually extraordinary at many of these things. But do you feel like maybe if you would have chosen only one to focus on, would you be even further ahead in that specific lane?
I don't know, because I think I can like again reflect and recognize that like I think a lot of these like a lot of the things I got to be able to do was because of both like filming and kind of being able to do both and understand both. And but that's also like, the whole like choose one thing is also something that, I think about that shit all the time when I'm like, fuck, should I like just fully like stop filming and just snowboard, or should I stop snowboard and just film? Or like sometimes even as my friends, like I see so many people that are like getting kind of like pushed out. They don't have a project or something, and I'm like, fuck, should I just like I could do this and give you all a place to film or a place for all your footage to go, or yeah, I don't know. It's hard telling, not knowing. And I guess I wouldn't want to change that. And I'm also like, I think even like looping back to kind of something we were talking about earlier, like I'm happy to have a couple different things on the go in different magnitudes. That's what keeps it fresh and what keeps it interesting. You know what I mean? Like when yeah, and I think that's also been something that's great is like in recent years, or, depending on like if I have a project in the winter when um, I don't have to edit it at all, then I'll just film more skating. All of a sudden I have all this more time, and that's kind of like why like the full length like site for nine times I made that like because like I was kind of like filming some skating with Tom Nelner and some of those cats for like a couple of years, or a year and a bit before that, because it kind of worked out that I had this time because I wasn't doing as much in that, so I was able to fill it with more in other ways. So I think I guess what I'm bottom line is like I'm grateful for that balance, and that it's not like a firm split. It kind of ebbs and flows. Sometimes there's more of that, and there's be times when I'll be at a place and I'll be filming somebody because I think I also know that like even if I'm like with my friends and my friends are also, they're getting paid to snowboard and I filmed them, that looks good for the company that I ride for. So it looks good for me too, even though I'm not snowboarding. You know what I mean? I'm still like providing them with something like, yo, I filmed this fucking awesome clip of somebody of so and so, and it's filmed in a way that maybe like the other person or like somebody in the office couldn't have filmed it that way because they would have fucking eaten shit flying off this jump with the person or whatever. So it's like in those moments, I'm like, fuck, it's all encompassing. And I'm down. I want it to be all encompassing. I want to do it all, and I just want to be able to hit my rent at the end of the month. That's pretty much it. Maybe go out for a nice dinner
Yeah.
with the lady every once in a while. I'm not. I don't know. And that's also like not that you segue into this, but it's also worth mentioning. Like, I don't have savings. I don't have a fucking house. I don't have it like maybe versus my peers that are my age that like went to school and then got a degree and then got a job and blah 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 and like they have a house and they so I think there's obviously like a sacrifice there, and I recognize that like if I went a different way I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, but maybe I'd be more quote unquote set up for my life, but it doesn't really that's not something that's important.
Yeah, no, no, of course. I like the, I mean, experiences you can have, I think, personally, I would say outweigh a lot of that. The stuff that you're talking about, maybe your peers from back home would have already, but yeah, like you saying you wouldn't trade it, I wouldn't think, and I wouldn't really trade that type of stuff for what I've been able to do either. So I relate to that as well. I guess like if I kind summed up all these questions, I don't know if you're gonna like this or not, but what like if you had to pick one thing, what are you? Are you a snowboarder or are you a filmer? Like first, if you had to make a list of the things you are in snowboarding, would a snowboarder or a filmer come first?
Damn, that's tough because it's also like that's kind of also like in a weird way like pointed to something that I again like on some reflection like there was a while there when I was like and I think this is also something that like in recent years I feel like snowboarding has kind of like been welcomed more into like a pop culture acceptance than it was before. I think there so what I guess what I'm trying to say is like in the past I would definitely not say I'm a snowboarder because I was like that's fucking whack you know. But now I guess I would probably say first, like I would probably say snowboarding. Like, and that's what's also interesting is like even through it, like you know, I also kind of like not cringe, but it's like oh, like a filmmaker. Like, am I a filmmaker? But it's also like I'm like editing a documentary right now, and so I guess I am. You know what I mean? But I also wouldn't have this job doing this if I didn't snowboard. Like that was I feel like the kind of the catalyst for a lot of it and kind of the foundation to like snowboarding was kind of the tool that I used to learn things. As that's a super fucking vague, but I feel like that's pretty good.
Yeah, no, like that's a perfect answer. I totally get what you're saying. I think people listening to you, it's interesting. Like, so maybe like now you would answer differently now than you would have even a few years ago. It sounds like.
Yeah, I think so. I think maybe I would have like maybe came to the same answer, but maybe I would have been like embarrassed to say that I was a snowboarder. I think now I'm just like I am. Like I'm not fucking afraid of that. That's just it. That's been a guiding principle in my life. And like I kind of said, there's things that interest me outside of snowboarding, obviously, but snowboarding is like a conduit, I think, for like approaching those things, in a cool way. And I've got the chance in recent years to, be more involved with like design with my sponsors, which is cool. And obviously like taking that in like there's a lot of inspiration from outside of snowboarding and streetwear and tech wear that isn't necessarily snowboarding stuff, but it all kind of comes back around and it's yeah, it's great. It's been great to be able to like expand and do some other shit too, and I think it's also like through fucking learning how to film snowboarding, like I kind of figured out how to like I love filming skating and that's something that moving to Vancouver I feel like has been a little bit of a void is like I haven't been able to do that as much, partially just because I don't have that same I'm not like quite as tapped in with that community. But like I love that and I don't think I would have been able to even feel good doing that or know that if it wasn't like as snowboarding as maybe being like a good middle ground to that, and definitely when I was a teenager and like spending more time in the city and I was 16 and me and my brother could drive, like we'd go and skate west side, this like little modular park and shit. And it all kind of like, going there with kids that like, I think it's very like a very like Canadian and like Minnesota, northern like winter climate thing is like you just skate when you can't snowboard, or vice versa. You snowboard because you
Right.
can't skate. Uh, That's just how it is, and especially like in metropolitan areas that have access to both. Um, so yeah, that also like snowboarding was also kind of the conduit for that to film skating and even kind of more so get into that more too. So yeah, fucking grateful. And filming skating's awesome. It's not cold. You don't have to, you're not fucking losing your fingers. It's so nice. There's like a corner store right there. You're fucking chilling.
I feel bad because I like started saying I didn't think I could keep up with a snowboard centric interview, and then got
Dude,
I
you're
proceeded to
beasting.
ask you almost only about snowboarding. So now I feel like I kind of want to give you a chance to not talk about snowboarding. If you, I mean, it sounds like it's rare for you, but if you were able to just completely turn it off, not think about snowboarding for an hour, a day, a week, whatever, like how do you fill that time, or ideally, how would you fill that time?
Yeah, that's a fucking great question. Again, it's like, and that's kind of why like at the start, I'm like, I'm sure I'll find a way to like bring it back to snowboarding in some way. Like I'm obviously interested in film and marketing. I think those two things are pretty like synonymous with each other. And so like, when I'm done filming, I would love to work, I would love to work in either design or maybe some like team management shit or something. And I'd like to say like if I were to get a call today and all my sponsors were to drop me and be like, you're done, buddy, I would hopefully still be able to like find a place, within the overarching like some sort of creative industry, and even if that's like, like project coordination or event stuff is also really interesting. Like I think I would find a way to tie it back in, and the community aspect of this shit is all shouldn't be overlooked. Like that's another thing I think about. Like I want to do something that like I'm like kind of incapable of feeling content with what I'm doing myself. But when I can see that somebody else is getting something from that, somebody else watches a video or goes to an event or something, that that's awesome. So in that sense, like maybe I would like do something like that in music or, in art or something. Like it's hard. I don't know what that would be, but something kind of probably that the Venn diagram of like snowboarding on one side and not snowboarding on the other. And there's something in the middle that like some things that I've learned that I like that I do in snowboarding that I would like to do other places. And that's even like I would love to be able to like produce, like I said, like more like, I mean, fuck some buzzwords, like produce content for XYZ brand or whatever. Like that would be awesome, you know? So I think that, something like that.
It's funny. I'm obviously super into the marketing, and I like the idea of content and all that too. And I constantly tiptoe around the buzzwords because they're just way overused, and they're pretty like corny in almost everything associated with them. But I mean, I have minus the snowboarding and the filming part. It sounds like we're on the same page as far as extracurriculars would be. I should have asked earlier actually when you mentioned taking your first vacation. Where, if you don't mind me asking, where did you go?
We went to Italy. My partner Olivia's sister got married over there. So we went to, we like did some kind of vacationing before, and then did like a week, um, in like Eastern Italy, and then we did a week down in Sicily. And it was awesome. And I think that's also like something, again, like, too, like, I know you're like this. It's like, I'm gonna bring a camera with
Yeah,
me, you know, and, and take photos of things. And maybe that's also just me taking photos on my fucking iPhone, because that's also totally viable too. But like, I'm also interested in in that. And I think that's maybe what, like, again, looping back to like snowboarding and skateboarding and community, like I mentioned, and like creating things, taking photos, videos, at least within these identified communities, by like creating these things, you can like give back in a way. And I really like that. Um, so yeah, but I think and in different ways though, like when I go to Italy and I took some photos and like these photos are sick. Like it was cool because those felt like they were maybe more for me in a way, so like, yeah, it's funny. Like Instagram's fucking hilarious. Like if I post a picture of like if I post something that's not snowboarding, like people are unfollowing. Not that it matters, and I don't like fucking look at this. I just know sometimes, and I'm like, like if I post a picture on Instagram of like snowboarding or like me and my brother or something, like people are like, yo, fuck yeah, like people are gonna like that shit. And I like post some shit on my vacation. People are like, I don't give a fuck about this.
Yeah, I mean, I relate to that so much too. It's so weird on all media these days. It's like people are only there to see the one laser focused thing that they're there to see, and if you stray from that at all, like it's same with me. Like if I
And
the episodes are doing great lately, but then if I want to post anything else, like numbers go down. It's almost like harmful to share things that aren't exactly what people want. But I also wanna showcase that I'm into other things, right? So it's like being punished for being more like well rounded.
like or like being true to yourself. I mean, yeah, you're being punished by that. And that also like even like, you know, yeah, like social media is fucked right up, and I wish like I sometimes have aspiration. I'm like, oh, I wish I could just like not open Instagram. But then I'm like also like, well, I kind of got it to some way. And like,
Yeah, of
so do
course.
you. If you want to continue to be able to do these that you like, you kind of have to. And like, you know, you also kind of got to give people what they want, which is, yeah, something that I also struggle with. But it's interesting. That also helps you maybe reflect on like, how much of this is for me? How much is
Yeah,
this for, or like, getting, what am I getting out of this shit? And I have so much respect for like friends that like don't have Instagram and at all. And like, I wish that could be me. Like, like you see somebody post a video. This is a recent example. Like somebody post a clip of somebody skating who doesn't, like a friend who doesn't have social media. And like instead of like tagging them, they like hashtag their name. And I see that and I'm like, that's so fucking dope. Like, that's so funny. And I think that's also maybe like a satirical approach, like hashtagging somebody's name. I think is cracked, hilarious. Like just thinking that maybe somebody would like click on this hashtag of an Instagram accountless skater to like maybe see if there was like more footage or something. Um, is good. And yeah, Instagram is also funny. Like you said, like I think there's like if you overshare, people are like fuck off, and if you undershare, people are like fuck off, and it's it's pretty. It's an interesting thing, and I'm also like fortunate enough to be like at the very end of the analog childhood generation, like I was able to like, yeah, call my friend's home phone or like go to my friend's house. And like, I remember we had floppy disks and shit, but now it's like, so I think like we're granted, those of us that experience that are granted the ability to maybe like look at Instagram and social media and its relation to like our jobs and our lives and like in a pretty maybe terrifying way. And maybe that also helps with some of that pessimistic approach that we spoke of earlier, is just kind of seeing where things are at now and like it's pretty
yeah.
fucking bleak out there in some ways. At least, you're like, yeah, bleak in the sense that like you're posting something that you're excited about. You took these photographs, you're like, I like these photographs, and people do not care. And but then I guess it's also maybe like how much like there's also like, are you doing something for yourself or are you doing it for um maybe approval from your peers? And like it's always maybe good to like if you can do something. and keep doing it and people don't care about it online, but you still like it, that's probably means it's actually something that you should.
Yeah, no, totally. It's hilarious. Like that, in theory, that is a good thing for a person to do more of if they like it. But then, like, the internet decides what they want us to do and tells us differently, and then a lot of people like buy into that. And I think eventually it's just gonna be people only doing what the internet tells them to do. It's gonna like slowly erode away any
Yeah.
originality and like creativity of people.
Yeah, and I think that's yeah, I agree. I think it kind of takes away, it can totally take away from it. It's also like there are these little like kind of modules of like really great, unique, like a unique approach to the internet and to social media and whatever. And I think I can appreciate that, but it's also, yeah, it's pretty twisted. Like Instagram's kind of like it's like a resume almost nowadays, you know? So it's there's like some like pressure maybe to be like mindful about what goes up on it. I don't know. My friend just said said to me yesterday, and I've been thinking about this. He said, "Post more, think less," and I'm like, "Damn, okay. Like, what does that actually mean?" There's some wisdom maybe there, you know, about like detaching from caring about social media in one ways, but those of us that are also like trying to operate in these like sectors, I guess, you got to play the game.
I know I hear advice like that all the time, and then I always think like, and that would be cool. Like I like to romanticize that, but then I feel it's a lot easier said than done, especially in if you're in the yeah, like you know, like you want to promote. It's your job to promote your snowboarding or filming. It's not really my job yet, but I need to promote these episodes to get people to hear them. So
And I think you got to like approach it like a job. That's something that I feel like at least like you kind of got to approach it like a job if you ever want it to be a job,
yeah, of
you know? So
course.
that's good. Like if you didn't approach this like a fucking like at least with some sort of job aspect, like you know, you probably wouldn't have been able to do so many episodes so far and like release them and have like a thought out plan around that. You know, like you kind of got to do that. But yeah, it's weird. I'm still not on TikTok, and that's something that I'm like kind of waiting. And I've had some friends who's like has that in contracts when it's just like you got to be on TikTok, and I'm so fortunate I haven't seen that yet, and I'm a little bit like hoping I never do need to do that.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
I had Snapchat once years ago, like, and I think it was like I've been Snapchat free for like 6 or 7 years because I was like driving back from Quebec once and I was like driving around the Great Lakes and I was like I remember like pulling over like oh fuck I gotta like post on my Snapchat and I like caught myself. I had this moment of realization. I was like, the fuck is wrong with me? Like just enjoy this. You know, like don't it's not just like for a Snapchat story or an
Yeah.
Instagram story or something, you know. So that I've been trying that's been trying to guide I've been trying to maybe like reflect on that even about like okay. So I'm happy to be Snapchat clean, but you know, I have my other vices, digital vices.
I like how you have all these definitive moments, like when that the kid's dad in hockey wanted you to pass. Like instantly, you knew it was over, and that
Yeah.
moment with the Snapchat, you were over it. That's I wish I was actually that decisive. I mean, be better at decision making. If like one instance pushed me over the edge to the whatever the decision had to be. But that's a good quality that you have that I wish I had more of.
Yeah, and I think I think it is important to maybe recognize that like there's probably like there's ample thought that goes in maybe behind closed doors leading up to this like eureka moment. Um, but yeah, it's not, I mean, I'm grateful for those moments of like, and being able to like reflect and be like, oh yeah, like those are, I remember that shit. That was crazy. Um, yeah, I think I feel like I have maybe more like no shortage of these like moments when it's just like accumulation of, or like in my brain has like identified these like maybe kind of arbitrary moments as like accumulation of thought to a decision. And then it's just like, oh yeah, that like locking on to be like, yeah, that's it.
There, like, you have more of them. I guess, like, you don't need to tell me all your secrets, but I assume there's more definitive moments in your life.
Yeah, there's a couple more, and I think they're all like kind of in like revolve around, what like snowboarding and what I do. Like I think at one point when I was like 19, I like broke my leg real bad. And I still like kind of live with that. I like wrapped it around a pole and I think that was pretty I was like definitely like still a kid and I was like, whoa. And I remember again having this like kind of definitive like thought process. I can't maybe place this as much so like in a place or time when I literally was like, I either like cut my losses and move on with my life, so to speak. Or I recognize that maybe I just fucked my body for life and I might as well keep doing it. And I went the other way. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna keep doing this, right? And my leg still is swollen. It's like 8 years later, it still looks twisted. It looks a little different and it hurts sometimes, but that's a choice there again, another like kind of definitive choice. So like, oh, I'm gonna keep doing this. And then my brother had a spinal cord issue injury and he quit. And that was also another definitive moment, at least in my life, when I was like, again, like, do I drop this? Is this me standing in the ice saying like, fuck it? Um, and again, choosing to not do that. But that would probably, those two were also like, those are two kind of like moments I think that had been like a very clear like split path, so to speak.
And that's good though. Like, again, like I'm saying, you have a definitive process for like deciding this stuff that I feel most people don't have that like talent really, or they don't like think of things as discerningly as you maybe do to like come to the conclusion. So it's very cool, very envious.
Yeah. I think it's also maybe like a little bit of some sense of maybe like a coping mechanism of like knowing that like, yeah, like knowing the path of least
Right.
resistance maybe too, or like maybe that's not even true. That's probably not even true. It's funny. I try to like that's something that like, like I think I had like my father when I was like my dad gave me some books by this one writer called Alan Watts, and he like synthesizes Eastern religion and Eastern philosophy kind of into like Western words so that like we can understand it. And I think like that was something that I maybe started reading that in my like yeah, young 20s. I'm 28 now, so it's like and I found a lot of that like as I was like again trying to like grasp to like identity and like who am I and what am I doing? Like kind of those were some guiding principles. I would say, some like, path of least resistance, way of the water, way of the wind type like that reading that was like really comforting in terms of like maybe granting me the ability to like stand by those choices, maybe when I was like faced with a split of like what do I do and like picking one and then not like going back on it and not dwelling on it and just like so I owe some like I'm very grateful for my father for like kind of bringing that into my life at that time because it was helpful at least like with my yeah with my life as a whole and like obviously like struggling with mental health I think everybody does to some degree that was also like pretty sick and in helping me like yeah make some of these decisions. a little easier.
I wasn't familiar with those books, but I'll add them in the show notes, and I'm gonna look into them when we hop off. That might actually help me.
Yeah, you should totally check them. Like I said, it's like the way they're written is like really nice, and I have had the opportunity to like read some Eastern philosophy like as it's written, and it is like mind bender shit when you're just like, okay, like I don't think I understand this, so I'm gonna have to read this line like
Yeah,
10 times. So it's nice because it's like you can just like pick up this book and like I mean, he has no shortage of like they're like shorter books too. Like you could sit down and just like bomb this book out in like a reading or like rip a whole book on a flight. Um, so it like helps, I think, even maybe with that. It's like I go in and out of phases of reading and lately I've been more attracted to reading that maybe has like more of like I'm not reading fiction really anymore because there's like maybe more of a utilitarian aspect of like I can do this and maybe it can help me approach something in a better way or like bring me a guiding principle to like not lose my shit when things start to hit the fan or like I'm super broke. It like helps to be like, oh yeah, it's all good. It'll come back around.
yeah, a bit of like rhyme and reason.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's also maybe like no religious upbringing at all. There is no. So that's what's interesting is that maybe this like Eastern religion has been like something that has been helpful.
That's cool. I did not anticipate that being a subject that we were talking about at the end though. I'm glad though. I'm slightly into that stuff. I don't know much about it. I'm interested though.
That's the thing is I don't even feel like I know that much about it. I've just like read some of these books and I've like found solace in that, I guess, maybe. But yeah, I want to be clear. I'm not like the guy. Like I'm not like, yo, I'm gonna tell you about some like Lao Tzu type shit right now. Like I don't.
Those are my favorite type of recommendations though. Just someone kind of offhand saying, "I read this. It was cool. Take what you will from it." Like I like that more than someone being like, "You have to read this. Like it'll change your entire life."
Yeah, that's a funny thing when somebody says like this, like something is gonna change your life. Like I'm like, don't put that pressure on me. Don't put that pressure on you either. You know what I mean? Like whoever said that to me, like that carries some weight. But yeah, maybe the most like mundane like phrase in this book, like somebody could read or any book could read and just be like, and I think that kind of writing, at least, like I said, like a Western take on it's just like really, it's like pretty gentle. So you can kind of like, I genuinely think like anybody could probably read that and like parse through some meaning regardless of your situation. It's almost like horoscopes, how they're so vague that you can like read it and be like, oh, this, they're speaking directly to me.
Yeah, which I actually like that too. Like stuff that could be general, but still like certain people will pull like really deep meaning out of it because it relates to them at whatever time they've read it or like seen the quote or the write up.
Totally. Or it's like even with music sometimes, right? Like people can associate songs with certain aspects of their life or just because they like listened to a
Right.
song while they were mourning and now for the rest of their life they will never be able to listen to the song and not cry or something. Like I think that's also fascinating to me. And I mean, fuck, maybe later in life I'll just drop all this shit and go to school and degree up and I don't know, learn more about this shit. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean you got the preliminary like interest out of the way. That would be a an
Yeah.
interesting pivot. But I guess after all this, you gotta do something, so it could be really whatever you wanted it to be at the time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's also like again, like coming to talk about my parents. Like my dad is, yeah, he's an artist and he does Tai Chi every day, and he was born in London, England. Like he's British as all hell, but he's found that as something that it's also like maybe for him that was like an arm off of some of these thought processes that he found really, I think, he found a lot of help from them when he was kind of like my age, which is probably also like a placebo effect about maybe why I felt like I connected with it to some sense. But, it's also interesting to see like how he has, found this physical aspect of that too. And, that helps with his like lower back pain and chronic pain and whatever. It's interesting to see how that has maybe happened in somebody who's close to me.
Right, and I mean that could be tied in to the thought that like anyone can take a deeper meaning from whatever they want to, right? So if your dad sees that as a way
Hmm.
to deal with all the other stuff, then like who's to say what's I mean no one's really saying it's right or wrong, but you know what I mean? Like who's to say what weight comes with that? It's all kind of up to the person doing it, up to him in this case.
Totally. And I think that's also maybe something that like draws me towards, again, looping back to like uh filming stuff, taking photos and even maybe like snowboarding and skateboarding in general, right? It's like you can kind of come at it however you want and you can kind of get from it whatever you want. Like that's I think that's super valuable when there are things that, communities or interests or yeah, books or thought processes that you can kind of like approach at your own pace and
Yeah,
in your own way. And that's really all it fucking is. Like I do love like talking about that, about like, you know, I'm down to get a little deeper sometimes, you know what I mean? Like get into some substance, like that can be really nice.
yeah, of course.
I would say we got into some substance here, We were talking about some
Yeah, exactly. We pivoted the combo. People can pivot their life. We're just a leading example of that.
totally. And I think that's also like I even recognize that like I will inevitably have to fucking pivot my life. Like my body won't be able to do what I'm doing now forever. And that's also something that's like an interesting thought for me too, to be like not saying I'm like, oh fuck, I'm trying to think of it's Doctor Strangelove. Doctor Strangelove, and he's riding the nuclear bomb with the cowboy
Oh
hat.
yeah, yeah.
Have you watched that film? There's that, yeah. So that maybe sometimes I feel like that sometimes, you know what I mean? Just like, yeah, like this ain't gonna last forever. Like, eventually there's gonna be a big change, whatever that may look like.
Does that like stress you out day to day? Like knowing there's kind of that impending closure or whatever eventually, or do you
Mm,
just live every day like kind of putting it off, or do you think about it a lot?
yes. I mean, yes and no. I think about it and I think about it and I maybe try not to, but I also feel now more than ever like pretty equipped to like understand that like
Yeah,
that's how that goes. So I just need to, and that's why I'm like really enjoying what I'm doing right now, and I'm enjoying being busy, and I'm enjoying working on all these different things kind of within this, just because I also inherently recognize that it's not going to be a forever thing. I think like I I see my friends and peers, and I romanticize when they like kind of like like quit when they're still ahead. So I that's the kind of where I almost like think about that the most is like I don't want to like I want to stop filming video parts before they get like somebody can watch one and be like, oh shit,
yeah,
Finn fell the fuck off. I don't want that, and I can say that with conviction that I would like to I would rather err on the side of caution and bounce prematurely because that's honestly I also like sensationalize that lore around these people, in and this is like, it could be skateboarding or snowboarding or graffiti or whatever, these people that are like way up and then they just fucking disappear. I think that's really sick. So I definitely sometimes I'm like thinking about like in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, like eventually I'll just disappear. But like I don't think that's actually going to be the case. Um, but I think about it. But yeah, I recognize that it's going to end, and that's fine. I'm going to do as much as I can and enjoy it as much as I can when I can.
I learned a lot about you in this talk, but if I learned one thing, I would say your self awareness is pretty impeccable. It's very impressive to know how you think about these things and that you're aware of them, and then you can kind of pick and choose which ones are gonna eat away at you right now. That's
Huh?
another thing I'm very envious of. Wish I had a more firm grasp on all that, but maybe I'll read these books you're telling me about, and maybe I'll be a changed man after.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? I mean, I hope so. Like I said, it has been helpful to like, yeah. I mean, that even like boils down to like the understanding that like it's gonna end and it's all good. I think, like that's something that's not like that's a pretty new that like, and I think like self-awareness is something that I've been trying to work on that. Yeah, I think that was always that's helped me, but I work on that too, and I'm trying to like, I think it's also like I've been doing the same thing since I was like a teenager, and that's something that I like struggle with sometimes is like, holy fuck, like have I even done anything differently? Like I'm filming snowboarding videos now, and then it's summer and I freak out, and then it's winter and I feel like I have meaning, and then it's summer and I freak out, and I've been doing that since I was 18 or younger. Um, so there's been like a lot of maybe dwelling on like growth and
Yeah.
that shit, which is good. That's also like I'm not trying to like be afraid of that and of thinking about my future and maybe in my future I'll have to say more fucking buzzwords to for the check to clear or whatever, and that's also fine if I have to do that, or like I think I'm also at a good point when I'm trying to like detach myself like even from my clips and be like, fuck, like if these guys want to post it on Instagram, fuck it. Like it's all good.
Yeah, no, and that's probably better place like mentally to be too. Again, like I'll just keep going back to your self awareness, but being self aware of that also like a good way to think about things moving forward. Red as that type of stuff is like even more and
Yeah,
more everyday, like part of all of our lives, like becoming more comfortable and it just being that. Like that's your work. These are your work plans. It's how you get a
yeah,
check. Like being able to
totally.
detach from that. Again, another one of your skills I would like to work on for me as well.
Yeah, and I think it's also like part of me maybe like tries to like we talked about this earlier in some ways. Like you kind of got to like pretend something's your job before it is. So I feel like to some degree, I like try to like speak stability into my life because I think like I don't fucking feel stable. Like mentally, where it's a mental war zone pretty much every day. Um, so if I can like speak it in like into reality, it kind of helps me you know, like just maybe trust the chaoticness in my head as having a
Right.
good outcome. And it seems to be work. I think it's working. I think it's working. If I can like overall, I feel like the past couple of years, maybe I've been like happier than I've been for a while, maybe.
Well, if if you feel better and you can like kind of articulate why, it's probably definitely working, right? Like if it feels better and you can
Yeah.
explain why it feels better, I think that's people get like either neither or one or the other, but if you get both, that's pretty good, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. That, I mean, that's pretty, I guess if you can get both, that's pretty ideal, really, at the end of the day.
You know what? I'm looking at our time, and I don't want to keep you for any longer than I said. I think I actually already kept you longer than I said I would.
All good. I haven't been looking. I love talking shit. So this is this has been perfect.
Yeah, you know, I was gonna say don't tell any of the other guests, but I've had a lot of fun in this talk. It was really good, like back and forth. You know, a lot of my talks go this way, but this one seemed like extra smooth back and forth, kind of all like relating to everything each other says. So this is one of my
Totally.
favorite ones. Really, thank you for your time. You know, I couldn't have had one of my favorites without the guest.
Oh, I appreciate it, Wesley. Thank you.
Oh, pleasure is all mine. Before I actually hop off or cut you off, do you wanna let people know like where they can find any of your stuff on the internet, website, sponsors, website, whatever you want to promote, please do.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I mean, as we were talking about Instagram, so I guess you could, yeah, find me on Instagram at it's always Finna. It's a little bit of a cringe name, but I'm a little too deep in it now. And um, there's a video that I filmed with some of my peers for Salmon. So I think just like if anybody's curious, go on to Salmon Snowboards and see the shit there. And the video is made by our friend, this guy Bryden Foley, great filmmaker, and honestly, maybe the first one of the first times I've ever felt as somebody who also is like editing and filming that I could like be in a situation when I didn't have to fucking think about that at all. So I'm excited. I'm excited about that. It feels like a new approach for me, which is something that I appreciate. Thank you so much for your time. That was an awesome conversation, and I love talking shit, and maybe that's our shared Alberta lineage, but it just works well.
Yeah, no, it worked very well. I couldn't thank you anymore, but I will one more time. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Wesley. I hope you have a wonderful day as well. And holler if you need anything else from me, photos or anything. Send you I can send you some shit. So just let me know.
Cool. Yeah, I will. I'll send you a message after this.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Cool. Thanks. See ya.
Peace. Bye.